So meaningful life is not a destination, but rather a trip. We should enjoy every bit of it. And the more we enjoy, the more we put in, the more is going to come back to us. What is important in this whole process is to learn to have joy in little things, and happiness will follow you. Namaste, and a very good afternoon to one and all. On behalf of Global Indian International School, Noida, I welcome you all to the Art of Being Happy webinar today. We are going to talk about happiness in context to our students and how, as educators and parents, can help children to find happiness, especially during this difficult time of pandemic. And to discuss the same, I have Sri Jiva Gopal ji with me, who is a motivational speaker and a lifestyle coach and an active member of the ISCKON Social Initiatives. He has worked for several social initiatives that includes Food for Life for children, de-addiction workshops for youth, and lifestyle counseling for professionals. Welcome, Jiva Gopal ji, and thank you for being part of this webinar. We are truly grateful for your time and presence with us today.
Thank you, Ganesh sir. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity, and I would like to congratulate you on behalf of ISCKON family to have this beautiful initiative on learning the basics and fundamentals of happiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again. We also welcome our students and parents to this interactive webinar, and thank you all for joining us today, and hello to all our viewers, those who are watching us live on Facebook. So Jiva Prabhuji, the first question to you, as we know that our topic is about happiness, and the first question is that what, according to you, is the value of happiness for humans in general?
Yeah, so the first question is really wonderful, and it appeals. I'm sure it is appealing to all the audience. And before I get started, I welcome all the audience who have joined us today. And to answer you, I'd like to only say that the value of happiness in our lives as humans, you can gauge it from the fact that every single living entity, not even if humans, they are thriving for happiness. Vedanta Sutra is one of the prominent Vedic Indian literature, and Swami Vivekananda, who was a pioneer in Vedanta Sutra understanding. So this Vedanta Sutra has a very important thing to say. It says Ananda Bhayo Bhyasat, which means every person in one or the other way is thriving for happiness. And therefore, whenever we have this question in the mind, we can always ask us, whatever I am doing, whatever in my life we're doing, we should ask this thing, why am I doing it for? And there may be intermediate answers, but the only one possibility that will come as the ultimate answer will be happiness. So whatever we in life we do for, it actually is the search of happiness only. Students can always ask this question, why am I studying? And their intermediate response, for example, will be, well, I want to get good marks. But then why do they want to get good marks? Because they want to become happy by making their parents and teachers proud and happy. And that is why whatever we do in life has to do with happiness.
Thank you, Jiva Gopalji. I think you have correctly mentioned that, we should not be chasing happiness, but if we know the purpose of our life, and we know that, if you have a meaningful life and you know the life, then happiness will automatically follow you. I mean, you are bound to get happiness. So you correctly mentioned, right? So we have a parent with us, Mr. Kamalpreet Singh, who will be asking a question. So Kamalpreet ji, over to you.
Yeah. Uh, Hello, and thank you for inviting in this session. I'm Kamalpreet, and I have a 5-year-old son. So, my question is that like, how can we uh, improve the well-being of our kid, you know, without compromising the other activities such as educational activities or co-curriculum activities? So we want them that overall well-being, that we should not impact their well-being also, but at the same time we don't want to compromise with their studies. So how can we achieve that during this pandemic time?
Thank you, Kamalpreet ji, for a wonderful question. This indeed must be a question for so many parents in these times, especially. So, without impacting curriculum and how they engage in their studies and thriving for success, they must also be happy. And how to do that? So, there is a core understanding of 4 Qs in our life that we should be knowing. These 4 Qs are: one is PQ, which is physical quotient. The second one is IQ, uh, mm, intellectual quotient, which is usually being thoroughly tested in schools, colleges, universities, across in our educational system. And the third one is the emotional quotient, which is the search for happiness within. And then the last one is our spiritual quotient, that is trying to find the purpose of our life for which we exist. So, interestingly, these two aspects, which is the IQ and the SQ aspect, IQ and the EQ aspect. So, usually, both together make a personality. A person, imagine a person who knows everything on the planet, high general awareness that person has. But when you go to that person, he doesn't even greet you well. So that is a lack of emotional quotient. And the importance of emotional quotient lies in the fact that we humans are bound to have beautiful relations, without which we find ourselves incomplete. So our educational system usually is highly biased on testing the IQ of the child. But they I won't say they completely, but to some extent they ignore the EQ aspect of the child. If somehow we can arrange a mechanism wherein this EQ of the child can also be ensured, then a child who is a topper of a class should have both IQ and EQ in a balanced way. But having said that, because we keep testing the IQ and IQ and IQ, and ignore the EQ aspect of the child, so the child tends to develop habits which are low on EQ. For example, a child, he passes by and he finds a beggar or a person who may be in real need, but the child may ignore. Why? Because he has to give a test today and he needs to really work hard on it. So he could have got that little happiness by helping that needful person while he was studying, but he's likely to ignore that aspect because of the bias towards the IQ and the priorities we have set for the children. So the priorities we are setting it must have equal marks for EQ. And then this whole inclination since the beginning for the child will definitely move towards this EQ. So when EQ will start taking its place, the rightful place, then our children will start focusing on the happiness aspect of their life. When I say EQ, it has to do with happiness, the satisfaction of the child. It has to do with the empathy that lies within the heart of that child. So and the kind of resilience and the tolerance qualities that the child has. So therefore, I would say that we all must focus on these aspects and ensure that our children get it on priority. And that is what I would like to say on this aspect.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think it is rightly said that we need to, focus more on EQ rather than IQ. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Our student Manya was supposed to ask one question. Over to you, Manya. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes, sir. My question is that, do you think sharing our feelings can make us happy?
Very beautiful question, Manya. Thank you so much. It can make us happy. I'm not saying that it will always make you happy. It can make you happy. What's the difference? Let's try to understand. So, as a person, you think. As a person, you think. Why? Because you have got a beautiful mind. So it will always keep thinking. And you also have a heart that keeps feeling. So you can think with your mind, you can feel with your heart. So there are two things in you. Okay. And when we say we also have friends whom we want to share our feelings, so they also have a mind and they also have a heart. But when we say share our feelings, we always share our feelings with our heart. And when we share our feelings with the heart, we should always try to find a person who also has a very good heart and a beautiful mind. Sometimes we share with a person who may be jealous of us. And so when you share your feelings, they may also say, okay, you want to do this. Okay. So they may, act. But it is always very good to share your feelings with your very good friends who have a heart-to-heart connection with you. So sharing feelings should be done with those people who have a heart connection with you. Okay. Don't share your feelings with everyone. Why? Because if you don't have a heart-to-heart connection, then people use their mind. And that is not a very beautiful thing. So always share your feelings with your friends who are connected to you with heart. Always share your feelings with your parents. And always try to share your feelings with your teachers. And that is one of the most important things. We are social beings, and that will always make you happy. So please keep sharing your feelings, but always choose a right person to share your feelings. Okay? Does that answer,
Okay.
Manya?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very important to find out the right person to share your feelings so that you feel good and the another person feels good about it. Yeah, moving on to next question, Jivaji. Does happiness impact the process of learning?
So one of the aspects of happiness, because we're talking about the process of learning, this learning process involves extensively utilization of our mind and our intelligence and our memory taken together. And happiness is more connected to our heart. So can our heart and our mind, that means can our feeling process and our thinking process actually work together to give the happiness that we are looking for? But can it be a part of a learning process? So if we try to go a little deeper, we can see, sir, that learning has two aspects. So one aspect is learning itself. If we are we able to enjoy our learning or not? Is a part of this learning process. And the second part is, are we able to make progress bit by bit in this learning process? So first thing is, are we able to enjoy in the learning? And the second thing is, are we able to make progress in learning? So why I am trying to segregate these two things is, once we are trying to enjoy learning, we will be able to push ourselves to the best of our capabilities. But to maintain ourselves to that high capability index all the time, it will need progress. So we can share that progress principle in details later on sometime. But in short, I can say to come to the highest capability in terms of our learning process, we must enjoy learning. And how do we enjoy learning? Oh, studying is not so good thing. For students, they hate studies. When these days they have to study on their mobile phones and their laptops all the time. So definitely that is dangerous and interesting also. So I must say that our heart should work with our mind when we are learning or when we are doing absolutely anything. Let's take an example. For a child, let's say, if his mother is eating, his favorite cheese burst, and able to smell that fragrance from distance, and mother is not asking the to have it. A child is not getting a single piece, and mother is eating nicely. So, will that child be able to study nicely? Obviously, he will be distracted. Why? Because his mind is in studies, but his heart is in pizza. So, if our heart is somewhere else and our mind is somewhere else, obviously the child will not be able to study. They need we need to make first of all we should make that learning process interesting, which should appeal to their hearts. But on the same time, unless they make progress in their learning, they cannot continue for long. For example, when a child goes and starts playing a video game, he plays in for long period of time. Why? Because he is being shown to make progress. And therefore, one level, level 2, level 3, level 4, and the child keeps enjoying it and keeps playing all the day he can play. The same way, if we can make studies also, interesting in terms of they are able to see tangible progress in it, then definitely their heart will also come back.
Thank you, Jivaji. I think you rightly mentioned towards the end, it's very important that heart and mind should be together, and it's definitely going to increase the productivity of and is going to impact in a positive way the process of learning. We have one of our parent, Mr. Kishore, Ankur Kishorji. So he'll be asking a question. Mr. Ankur, over to you.
Yes, sir. So good afternoon to everyone. And I would like to thank Ganesh sir and GIS for organizing such an enlightening session for all of us and giving us an opportunity to ask some questions which really always keep on lingering in our mind. So I have a question that, see, these days, it is all so much stressful due to work from home, COVID, pressure of studies, etc. So we keep on getting negative emotions also quite a lot. So what is the best way to take over our negative emotions and stay happy?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, and a highly intellectual question also, because this question is discussed in the boardrooms of big corporates also. It is being discussed in academic institutions that are really caring about the children, and it is being discussed in every single home between parents, and that question flows to children also and impacts them. So having said that, Kishorji, thank you for the question. So how to stay happy in this with these negative things around is very important. So we need to understand or probably be more aware of classifying ourselves in 3 categories. Let's say we see ourselves as one, but let's try to classify in 3 categories. So the first category is the gross thing about ourselves, the gross thing that everybody sees, can observe in us. It's primarily the body. It's primarily the body. Everybody can see us, and whenever we wake up in the morning and we go to the bathroom for brushing our teeth, the first thing we see is the gross body. But there is a subtle aspect in us, the subtle aspect that people tend to ignore because it is not visible, which is the subtle body, I mean to say the mind, the intelligence, and the ego in us, and the emotions in us. These are highly ignored things, because science cannot prove emotions, science cannot prove happiness, so they tend to ignore. And there is even a higher aspect in us. When the mind is peaceful and the heart is very happy from within, then what should a person do? So if the heart is always happy from within, and then a person will never become he will never submit to negative situation, negative aspects in life. For example, a student did not score very well in one of the exam, and in such a situation, have we trained him enough to still remain happy? And as soon as he will hold the report card in his hand, and parents will say, hey, what have you done? How have you done in this subject? What have you done in this subject? You got such a low mark. Even your friends who have learned from you are, scoring higher. So this is not good. So as soon as the child hears this, the child will say, oh, I have not done this good. So the happiness within the child is going to evaporate like camphor burns, and it evaporates all the solid constituents. It's the same way, even if a child scores low, we can definitely analyze and try to bring the child to a better performance level. But at the same time, we should still ensure that the happiness in the heart of that child is not gone. It always stays. It will always come to the process of self-awareness. So it is always good that we meditate with our family, with our close ones. We also can ensure that we meditate with the people around us. So what is this meditation? Meditation is simply a way of increasing our self-awareness. When we sit calm, cool, composed for a while, and then we close our eyes and we see and imagine that we are not just this body. After closing the eyes, everything external stops, and we go inside ourselves to explore the endless possibilities we have to explore. And the life is so small to explore those endless possibilities. Meditating about our own personality, our own character, and how we are doing in life. Is there something I need to focus more? Is there a purpose of my life that I am really aligned with? Every day we meditate and keep aligning us with the purpose of life. This happiness is never going to go in any negative situation we face in life. So I think I will say this to Kishore. Kishore, hope that answers your question.
Sure, Jivaji. I think now these days meditation required for everyone, not only for children but for us. So thank you.
So I think you rightly mentioned that doing an honest conversation with yourself by closing your eyes is very, very important in order to understand the purpose of life, the meaning of life, and at the same time, the real happiness is within. So that honest conversation with yourself is very, very important, by closing your eyes. So moving on to next question, a very important question is that what are those components, missing, nowadays, which is kind of impacting the emotional part of the students. I mean, it's badly impacting, and especially we have seen during this pandemic time, students are confined at home and they are away from school. And now it's more than 2 years now. And this is a different kind of a lifestyle they're going through. So what do you think that, that missing component, which is, heavily kind of impacting the students' happiness?
The missing component. I think, sir, that's a very intellectual question. The missing component in the happiness index that we see in the students. So, and the missing component, I would say, the missing component is actually the quantification of emotional quotient. So the approach that we take in educational institutions dates back to the systems we adopted after the independence of the country. And then since then, the traditional education systems have continued, and modern schools like yours have been redefining and reshaping this landscape. And we always have to continue with this process, keeping our future in mind. Why? Because educational institutions throughout the globe are evolving continuously. So staying in a more traditional format may not yield the needful dynamics for the students' overall welfare. So, and from this is from a system perspective, but then there is a personal aspect also, wherein there's a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. So that tells us about a missing aspect. So I'd like to quote that verse in Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure all of you must have heard that. So common. It says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karmaphala heturbhur ma te sangvatva karmani. So this verse has an interesting application point. So the verse has 4 points to clearly speak out to us by Krishna himself. So the first thing we all know, you keep doing your karma, which is your actions, to the best of your capabilities, and that is what is required. But there are other 3 aspects that are usually missing. So I'd like to reiterate them. So the second aspect. So first, we all know that we should perform our prescribed duty. So what is that prescribed duty? That is, as a student, I must study. That is my prescribed duty. As a businessman, I should focus on my business. That is my prescribed duty. And as an educationalist, I have to keep thinking about the welfare of students. That is my prescribed duty. And therefore, the prescribed duty is there for every person in the society. And doing them is the best thing. But the other 3 aspects, now let me categorically mention from those 3 aspects. The first one is Krishna is saying, after Kanmanyevadhikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachana. So what Krishna wants to say here is, don't get attached to the results, because that is not in your control. And you'll say, oh, I have studied well, but let me ask you, are the marks in your control? I want to get 100 out of 100. That is a desire, but not the control on the marks. Sometimes you may think, I'll get this time, I'll get 90, and you may have got only 85. So those marks are never in control. It's practical. Even a farmer, he sows in seeds, very good quality seeds. But when he puts water, he has limited control of water. He has some underground water he can put on the in there. But all he has to do for a very good harvest, he has to rely on rains. And obviously rains are not in his control. So there are factors which are in control, there are factors which are not in control. So here Krishna, considering those points, he has said, interestingly, he has said, you're not entitled to the fruits of your action. So therefore, we should not be fruitive in our mentality. This is the second point. And out of those four, the third one is never consider yourself as the cause of result. I have done this. Why? A child will say, this time I am the topper of my class and I have done everything. So I would then humbly ask that child, hey, think about it again. Do you think you are the only cause for your good marks? And then if the child thinks a little deeper, he will understand how hard his parents have worked, how hard his teachers have worked on him to ensure that he understands every concept before giving the exam. So there's a whole system that is working with that child. So I should never take the, the myself, I should never consider myself as the cause of the result. So that's just the third aspect. And the last one, which is equally important, as never be attached to not doing your duty. Now I say that you don't attach to your results. So you think there's no result I am attached to, so why should I work? That could have been an indirect question. So to answer it, the last point wherein Krishna says that never be attached to not doing your duty. So this is also important. Let's take an example that if you will, the parents tell the children, okay, this time if you get good marks, you'll get a new mobile phone, or you'll get a new bicycle, or you'll get a new, laptop or something like that. These days, these are the gifts. Probably, I'm not really sure what this generation is looking for, but I just giving an example. So, yeah. So this way, sometimes we should do to motivate the child from an external to an external mechanism, but we should not put a habit, this kind of a habit of fruitive work. Only when you show results I will do. This is going to be a dangerous in a long term. So what will happen? Only thing that will happen is the child will stop working when that external motivation will stop. Therefore, the child will not be motivated from within. And how to be a self-motivated individual and a profession in your future life lies on this very key factor. So therefore, sir, these three are the hidden aspect as far as a person's individuality is concerned. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you rightly mentioned that the controlling your desires and not should not bother about the outcome or results, because there are certain things they are in your hand, and certain things absolutely it's out of your control, and things which are out of your control, you should not bother about them. You cannot change them. You can't do anything about it. At the same time, that very simple formula that you mentioned, that you control your desires, because you see, happiness equals to attainment minus desires. So you control your desires, you reduce your desires, automatically the parameter of happiness will go up. Right. Thank you. So we have a parent now, Ms. Prachi Dubey, parent. She would like to ask a question. Madam Prachi, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. My question is, what kind of changes we as parents have to make in our life to be happy, so that we can make our children happy too?
I think this is a very important question.
Yes, sir.
Very important.
So to be a parent, I really appreciate it. It's one of the, it's actually a big deal. So parents have to be on their foot all the time, running here and there to ensure that the child is taken care of. This is always a, it is always a privilege to be a parent, and I really appreciate and all the parents to be doing their best to their children. So having said that, I will only say to parents, I'll quote, because but you'll say that this guy always keeps quoting from Bhagavad Gita, but definitely inspired from the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISCON movement also, and who's taken this movement on a global level by sheer effort of 10 years, lasted 10 years of his life, and that really inspires me. So there's a beautiful words in Bhagavad Gita. So this gives the answer to your question: what should parents be doing? So the word says that whatever a great person, role model, does, common people follow. And children are the best example for in this case, you are a role model for your children, and children will follow you. Your child is going to follow you not by your words, but by the actions you perform. Why? It's also a very interesting verse said. It says, more things are caught than taught. So, for example, I'm giving a negative example also to understand this. Suppose a father, suppose a father, I'm not sure, not all the fathers are like that, but maybe few cases, exceptional cases. Suppose a father is smoking. And how can he ask his son not to smoke? So in this situation, obviously he has to live by example, and rest assured the child will follow, learn. Children have very significant amount of learning curve involved in the process, so they will learn. Yes, you adopt a good quality in you. Suppose you start saying thank you to everyone for whatever. You start saying, please, could you do this for me? You start saying, please. And you start showing your gratitude. And you see your child will start doing the same in few days. Just few days, you'll say. So I think, does that answer, Prachi ma'am, your question?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Jivaji, you rightly mentioned that, we need to demonstrate ourselves. We need to demonstrate the right things so that, children can pick up those things. They can easily learn. That's very, very important. And the example that you have quoted, it's very appropriate. I mean, it's very relevant that nowadays it's very important that what we are doing in front of our children, and accordingly their personality will shape and they will learn from you. So that's very important. Yes. So another two questions I'm combining together, because as you mentioned earlier also, that we should not bother about our results, because we at the same time, you should not say that oh, I have scored, as you mentioned for students example, that I have scored it, because he said that the contribution of parents and maybe your teachers and everybody's contribution will be there. Similarly, for happiness also, is that for my happiness, of course I'm responsible, but then there'll be many other people in society, family, friends, they will be also responsible for your happiness. So my next question is that how we, all of us, whether, let's say for an example, especially we wanted to understand in terms of school students, parents, what would be the as a parent, as a teacher, for children happiness, how we can contribute. Here is the, let's say we always say that there is a partnership between parents and school, for the children education, for their children education. So similarly, for their happiness, how we can collaborate, contribute.
It's a very, very important question. So you've asked, especially in these times. And to be true, I can shed three aspects on how the schools and teachers, parents all together can actually contribute to the happiness of a student or a child. So first thing is obviously ensuring that we quantify EQ. We've already discussed that, so not go into details of that aspect. And then the second one is focusing on character of a child along with skills. So a child is developing skills, let's say painting, drawing, sports, and developing a good programming skill these days. And along with that, obviously, there are so many aspects. But having said that, character is also important for a child. Why character is important? Because we want, definitely we want, and we are looking out for good citizens in our country, good people across the planet. And these days, nobody belongs to a country. We want global citizens, because everyone is traveling here, and your school has a significant presence internationally. So obviously, we want global citizens. So we want these global citizens to have a minimum standard of behavior, which comes with character. So therefore, character should come along with skills. And therefore, we should, along with their studies, also give them some time to meditate upon and build upon their character. And thirdly, I would say, sir, that we should also focus on progress principle. So this was originally given by Teresa Amble and Stephen Kramer in Harvard Business Review publication. So I've studied this research and I figured out that there is important aspect which is called progress principle. And I have been working on this, and I'm planning to develop a complete, online system wherein this can be utilized. But to share the summary of their research, I would like to, mention you that they mentioned that for any meaningful work, a meaningful work can only lead to understanding of progress in a person. And that can only lead to work satisfaction and finally lead to accomplishment. Or in other words, we can say that there is something called inner work life, which fuels a person's performance, both personally as well as socially. This is a driver of a person's creative performance and creative productivity. So there are three aspects in this: positive emotions, second is motivations, and third is perception. So these things we should try to record. We should try to record these. How we can do so? So they gave an interesting aspect. So they said that we should try to record them, at least daily. Daily we should record these. And what will happen with this recording? So it said that a child or a person will be able to understand. The kind of progress they are making. Why? Because progress is essential for a person to remain focused. And as we've already discussed, to remain focused, your heart and mind should be together. So therefore, if you can record essentially these persons, as we say, the inner work life parameters. What does that mean? So you indicate, like, has a person focused onto his goal for the day, and by the evening, was he still focused onto his goal, or he is deviated? How can we say this? We can see this with the other factors. For example, the person has autonomy to do his work. like a child, we should not micromanage the child. We should give him his creative freedom. Resources, he has the resources. If we want a child to make a painting, definitely we'll have to give him a paper, and we need to give him all the needful material like brushes and colors and everything. So he has all the resources to do so, and then the person has time to focus on the meaningful work which is assigned to him. And then, like, obviously loading a child with the homework that he is capable of doing, that's one example to that. And then the lessons learned, asking the child at the end of the day the lessons he has learned from his whole day's activities in school, at home, whatsoever, taken together. So if that can happen, I'm sure we can track his progress on a daily basis, and there is a correlation between progress and him remaining focused on the goals, like heart and mind all together. So if you find that the person is not making progress, then there is a very highly likely chance that the child is actually not able to he's not happy. so this progress, if we can track on a micro level, if not daily, at least on a weekly basis, immediately we can catch the child, get him in the right place, and keep the ball rolling. So that is what I can say, sir, at this point in time, these 3 important points.
Very rightly said. I think one of the most important thing in this answer, one is that to record your actions and to analyze them, one.
Yes.
Second, to a point I really liked, that is giving children or students little freedom for their creativity. You see, I'll just give you a very quick example. When I was heading up one school prior to this one project, and there was a concept of free time in school, and generally we don't have this free time, because everybody will ask, why free time, why we are not teaching, or why they are not doing some maybe any period. There are fixed periods in schools, lessons, we call them for 1 hour or 40 minutes, whatever it is. But
Yes.
this particular school where I was heading, they were having very good practice, and that practice, free time practice. So I was initially also I said, free time, why free time? But then I'll tell you, when I came to know, in that particular free time, students, they used to do whatever they feel like. Somebody will play, somebody. I came to know that they have so much of talent. They have developed this all good practices and good habit, whatever their hobbies, and in fact, everything during this particular time. And every individual in a class, if there are 30 students in a class, everybody is immediately, that particular free time, whatever they really like, they will do. And this is how we know students better. Apart from that, the kind of education system we have, one-way traffic, like, I know and I'm going to teach you. It's not like that. It's like, they have their own creativity. The moment you give them the little bit free time, of course, after that, as you said, bring them back to the routine work or regular work. But then that giving them a little bit of freedom will really, I think that will really going to their happiness. Thank you so much. So we have now one of our student, Bhakti Arora. Bhakti, over to you. She wanted to ask one question. Bhakti.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So, good afternoon to one and all, first of all. And I am Bhakti Arora, part of GIIS Noida from class 7A. And today I have a question that our education system teaches us or trains us, the students, to be successful for the competitive world. But how can we be happy at times when we don't get enough or expected success as a student?
That's a tough question. Yeah. So how can you be happy when you don't get enough or expected success as a student? So Bhakti, it's a beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking this question once again, I should say. And then I would say that, because your question is like that, how can we be happy at times when we don't get expected success as a student? Well, I would say change the definition of success. Say, every individual has a unique capability, as I think Ganesh sir has just spoken it. That free time a child or a student develops his creative talent from within. We don't give that, he's actually like in a completely different world and not given, ample of space. Even if you want, an aircraft to fly, you sit in an aircraft and you want it to fly, and you don't give it a space, the sufficient space to run, and on the airstrip, you say, no, I will not give you that space of airstrip, you just fly. He cannot. That cannot. And every individual is unique actually. For example, you must have heard this example of a monkey and a fish. A monkey is happy, jumping from branch to branch, but a fish can swim like anything. So if we judge fish on the basis of how it can jump from one branch to other, obviously the fish may not be able to give its best, or in a relative environment wherein the monkey is definitely going to outperform. And the same way, if you ask the monkey to go and swim, obviously it will fail the test as compared to the fish, because fish is going to win. So what I want to say is, by the Lord's mercy, we have been endowed with so many talents, but not all the talents. You are talented, you have your strengths, but that does not mean that you will have all the strengths on the planet. So keep working on your strengths. And the exams that happen in school are actually not testing, they are all actually testing all types of talents. But you should understand where you're scoring nicely and ensure that you carry forward that learning. Important is the learning process. Our marks are not important. We already discussed today, Bhakti. But then having said that, always be aware of your talents, your capabilities with these marks. Suppose you score very nicely. I'll give you an example of one of my friends. I always used to take his notes and will always learn from him. He was a wonderful person. Currently, he's a senior scientist in DRDO. This guy was a unique guy. He always will score 100 marks in mathematics. He'll always will score 100 out of 100 marks in mathematics since his childhood and until I saw him in school. And I later heard that even in college, he was scoring 100 marks in mathematics. So, but then he was not the best speaker in the class. There were speakers better than him. So, and someone is great in cricket, so the other may be good in public speaking skills, and the other third person may be great in the marks they score in mathematics or science. So definitely he focused on his strength, that he's very good at mathematics and science. So he focused on his career to become a scientist. Similarly, none of your talent is a waste. Or if you score lower marks in a subject, it does not have any significance in your long-term career. Although you should work nicely to score in exams, but even if with your own nature, you perform nicely in some subjects and you performed, good marks, not that great marks in some subjects, we should be able to accept that. And your teachers will always encourage to take up your talents. So focus on those talents and make a great career in your future out of it. Choose your stream and your branch After 10th, you should choose your streams. So choose your streams accordingly and go in professions, professional studies, and consequently your profession accordingly. So always keep an eye on those. So these exams are only meant for that. Okay. So therefore, as you asked me this question that how can we be happy at times? So we should focus on our talents. Be focused. You will never be sad. You will remain happy. Okay. Does that
Thank you
answer,
so much.
Bhakti?
Thank you so much.
All right.
I think, yeah, it's very important that, we should remain focused and kind of, concentrate what we are doing. Normally, what happens most of the time, research says that, around 46.9%, whenever we are, awake, we are always, mind is wandering here and there. And an actual output and the concentration is very, very less. Either we are living wandering, or maybe we are worried about future. And this is what I have, that of mindfulness. If you have that power of being in here and now, I think then you should not bothering about competitive round marks and about any other things, and right. So yeah, I think this is very, very important. So coming to one question before I ask last question, Jivaji Prabhuji, to you. One question, our audience, they are asking, Mr. Pandey is asking, how to control anger. I think this is a very common problem with everyone. So how to control? So quickly, you can give some fixed solution for this.
Okay, so let's fix it today. Now I'm here. Okay, thank you for a wonderful question. And this is a common question. It is becoming very common for people to become angry on public forums these days. See people fighting also. Well, it has been going for a long time. For that, I'll give you an example. So I give an example of a knife, a very sharp-edged knife. And this knife, so there are two users. So one user is, a surgeon. So he gets this knife and he starts operating a patient and gets him well. And on the other side, a thief comes to his clinic and steals away this knife. And what will he do? And steal things. And if people will not let him steal, he will obviously hurt them with that knife. This knife is the same. How we use it is important. Having said that, anger is also a tool. Imagine a child is doing so many naughty things and you don't show no anger to him. How will the child understand that the naughty things? Showing anger, becoming anger and showing anger are two different things. I'm talking about showing anger to that child for a while. If the mother shows a little anger to that child, the child will understand, oh, this is something I should not be doing. It's not desirable. And the child will learn. So I'll give another example from our ancient literature, Ramayana. Lord Hanuman, all Hanuman. So Hanuman is such an amazing person. He went to Lanka, and he became so angry that he, burnt almost all of that palace of this evil guy Ravana. So he also utilized anger. When he returned back, Hanuman, and he told Lord Ram that, oh Lord Ram, I have actually become angry, and I, burned the whole fort of Ravana. I'm sorry, I did not even ask you doing so, and because of my anger, I did so. I'm really, not feeling happy now. What should I do? Lord Ram said, oh Hanuman, you are my, greatest well-wisher. Before I can go to Lanka, you have already created fear in the heart of Ravana. that if one monkey, just a monkey in the army of Ram can actually create such, what will the whole army do? So you have already done the needful, my dear. So what I mean to say with this beautiful story is anger is angry or bad thing. I'm sure people will tell you meditation techniques to control anger, but I would say applying anger for the right cause is good. But our mind should be in control. Our mind should be in control of this anger. That is all what we should do. Why? Let's suppose a soldier standing on the border of the country and saving the citizens. He cannot kill the other person. Hey, I'm killing you. Should I kill you? Okay, doom. No, he will not do so. He has to become angry against the enemy, and as soon as he spots the enemy, he triggers his gun. So that needs a lot of anger, but that anger is in control. So my dear friends, therefore, we should utilize anger to serve the higher purposes of our life and humanity in all, but not get surrender to anger. That is how we can do it. So Bhagavad Gita has a very important verse on how to control anger and how this anger pitches in. If we are not in control, what will happen? So Bhagavad Gita says, Dhyayato vishayam punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho abhijayate. So this krodha, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, how krodha gets developed in 4 stages. So when we vishayam punsa. So when we our mind keeps going on one thing, the other thing, the other and the other, it keeps going on to so many things. So when our mind gets attached to one of them, sangat sanjayate kama. So when it gets attached to something for a longer duration of time, then one thing happens. What happens? We either get that thing which we are attached to, or we don't get it. If we get it, we develop what we call as lobh. Lobh is greed. So we develop greed, and if we don't get it, we become angry. So in the first stage, when our mind gets attached to so many things, we should ensure that attachment to that thing is serving the purpose of my life with the goals I have set for myself. If no, immediately cut off that attachment then and there. You will not reach out to the level, to the stage of anger. That is a technical understanding. But having said that, try to utilize this anger, not get submitted to it. Thank you. That's what I'd say.
Thank you so much, Jivaji Prabhu. I mean, you very clearly mentioned that anger is a tool, and which knows for what we are using it. It can become kind of it can create a negative impact if it is not rightly used. I think so. With this, we come to the end of our discussion today. I mean, it was a wonderful discussion, and I'm sure that this initiative, for the benefit of our students, parents, and for all of us, in fact, we will continue, and we will have many more such fruitful discussion, and we will be learning so many things. And most importantly, today's discussion was around happiness and how to become happy. I'm sure that this particular time when we are going through this difficult situation of pandemic, especially we thought as a school, when students are away from home, school, and they are confined to 4 walls, I mean, and no friend circle, no social development and all. And this particular time, and happiness and to be happy is very, very important. And what role as a parent, teacher, and all of us as society members, what we can do and small children to be happy in this situation. Thank you so much once again, Jiva Gopal ji, for answering and illuminating us with such deep thoughts and values. I'm sure that all of us, we are going to imbibe those advices into our lives and lead a very happy life, and which is, not confined with the external circumstances at all. And we will make sure that we focus what we are doing, and we are always the mindfulness we practice. Before we end, thank you all the parents, students, those who have joined us today in this webinar, and I'm sure that many more we will have such webinars, and we'll try to learn good things from these webinars, and we'll certainly have good takeaways from these webinars. And I hope this webinar has helped each one of us in one way or other. Once again, thank you so much to one and all. And Jivaji, Gopal Dasji, thank you so much for joining us and kind of sharing your thoughts today with our students, parents, and with all of us. And we are looking forward for such more fruitful interaction and discussion in future also. Thank you so much, and namaste.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.